Hey, Jim.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I can hear you. Alrighty. So, hey, everyone, this is Chris Burns from the Heart Center, one of the 9 guides of the new, and a ambassador to assist in bridging humanity and consciousness. And I'm here with a very awesome friend, a shaman. Many names I could give him, but my friend Jim, who's been a huge guide for me on this journey, and we're going to chat a little bit today. And this is our first video from a series we're going to be offering called The Beat. So, uh, Jim, how are you? How's life?
Life is good, and life is good when we view it as so.
Mm,
Uh, and first, thank you for the intro. Uh,
yeah.
Way too kind. It's difficult for me to stay grounded in my humility.
Mm,
Uh, I remember when we first met, uh, and I've seen since that time, the last couple of years, all the growth that we talked about back then, just in where we've come to where we're doing this together as peers,
yeah.
where we have we both have a great and wonderful understanding of what humanity needs and how to be of best assistance, but we have different approaches
Mm,
and what we do and how we do things. With what you're building with the Heart Center is amazing. It's an amazing thing for people to
thank you.
have that kind of group of human beings who come together to work in synergy for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
I work pretty much on my own as a shaman, which means I do a lot of one-on-one work.
Mm,
But there is some value to when you get people together in small groups to work together to support one another, and it allows them to, when they go out away from the classes, to know that there are others that
right.
they can contact for support who have that same kind of path and understanding that is being fostered, not so much being preached, but fostered and
Right.
nurtured.
Embodied.
And
Yeah. I,
and that's go ahead.
I wanted to scoot back a little bit because I thought you said something very important as far as how we even got to this point, right? So it's so going back probably 4 to 6 years ago. I'm not sure what the timeline was, but you know, Jim and I didn't arrive at this, what we're doing today, just at the drop of a hat. It was very much coincidental, even though I don't really believe in coincidences, but I was in a space in my life where I was looking for guidance. Knew that there was something in me that was looking to be birthed. I wasn't sure at that time what it really was, and you're seeing the products of that through the Heart Center and now the Beat. These ongoing calls we're going to have together. But back then, I was kind of, in a sense, lost or confused a little bit. And then I met Jim, and he said a few things, and I was like, oh, okay, this actually makes sense. And he told me that I was a teacher, and at that time, I don't think he knows, but I didn't want to believe it. Because I thought teacher meant, you stand in a classroom and tell people how to count to 10, and you give them tests and everything. So the kind of teacher you were speaking about was something that I wasn't ready to accept years ago. Although I knew my life was kind of pushing me in that direction. Um, so we started to talk. We kept in touch for about a year or two, and then, like you said, life kind of took us into our own training and our own ninja class, and it taught us a plethora of skills and tools that we can now share with people in our various ways. So I wanted to make sure everyone knew how we got to this point, and where you came from, how you showed up in my life, and vice versa. So I'm curious what it was like on your end, how that meeting, how me and you first met. What was that like for you?
Well, for me, okay, I'm a telltale,
Mm,
Taltos, and that comes from ancient Hungarian culture, and is somebody that is born a shaman, that is
mm,
born with a natural connection of source wisdom flowing through me since I've been alive, just because of breathing. For me, one of the most difficult parts of my life is remembering that with each individual, it is their individual experience that I am in,
Right.
taking part in, not, okay, what's the next one? What's the next one? And at one point, I even found myself getting a little more cold in the comfort that I had taken with what I do.
Mm.
And the way that I would tell people is like, look, this is a unique experience for you. For me, what happens when I talk to people. But on some level, that's kind of what my life is.
Right.
When you and I first met, you were one of many that I have had privilege
Mm.
to have you allow me to have the influence in your life that I did. One of the most difficult things in doing what I do is understanding that experience is the greatest teacher there is, and
Yeah.
that it is the experience that we need, though a guide on occasion can assist us in understanding the direction our life is going. But we still have to walk that path.
Mm.
The time that you and I spent doing our different thing gave you the experience of standing on your own
Right.
without feeling like you had a safety net of me back there to use as a crutch.
Right.
One of the worst things that any of us do to another is allow them to be a crutch and make them our, for lack of a better term, our savior, our
Yeah.
guru, our teacher,
Right.
or whatever the term is this week that people want us to try and sell.
Right.
Experience is that teacher. The best any one of us can ever do, regardless of ability or experience that we have, is share our experience, share what it showed us. One of the wisest things Buddha ever said was to question everything, even that which I say, to make sure it makes sense to you.
Mm.
Okay. And a lot of times in life, something we think we understand it, and then we have a life experience that makes us go, oh shit, I thought I knew what that was. Now I get it.
Right. It's beautiful.
And it's tough because we live in an age where spirituality has become an industry.
Yeah. It's become another religion in a sense, and it's become that crutch that people have now used to feel good about themselves and to
Mhm.
validate their own beingness. I really like the mindset of, you don't need anything because you are everything. So when one of the greatest accomplishments I will ever come across is whenever someone comes to me and says I don't need the heart center, because I know in that moment, um, they have found that which is infinite, that which can't be changed, that which is always changing, and that which is always there. And so when you use spirituality and you try to point to it and say that's it, you're missing the point. And you know uh, it's difficult to say what it is that they're missing, again, because it's such a personal experience. And then from that point you can teach some sort of direction so that people can have a grasp on it. And usually this is where guides and people have who are a little bit further along the path show up. So I agree with
Exactly.
you. That's become a crutch instead of what it is.
Uh, what I spend the most time doing with people who come to me over the years and people I speak to even today
Hmm.
is turning them back inward.
Yes.
Okay. Everything I teach is about developing and strengthening the connection to the higher self, which is that little tiny piece of what God is that's directly responsible for us.
Hmm.
If you've got a tiny little piece of God that's dedicated to you, that is part of your being, think of it as the spirit inhabiting the flesh. We are spiritual beings who came down here for a human adventure.
Right.
Once you understand that, the idea of looking for some sort of spiritual experience becomes,
Absolutely.
for lack of a better term, an immature thought.
Hmm. Yeah.
Maturity of self and maturity of mastery of self and that higher self connection is knowing that you can allow yourself to be a spirit in flesh and
Right.
to allow what is at the deepest core of you, which is that spiritual being, to be what inhabits the flesh instead of wearing everything that you've been told in life that it what it means to be human,
Right.
looking for a spiritual experience.
Yeah. And then at that point, you actually don't need to talk about it as much. It's because it's not something you're trying to prove.
Exactly.
It's in every step that you take. It's in every breath that you are breathing. Because I think Alan Watts says you can't bite your own teeth, right? But you
Mhm.
can chew. So when you allow yourself to simply be, then I think people get really confused about the simplicity of I would say a self-realized individual, because they're not doing all these rituals, even though they might, but they're not doing all these rituals and saying all these mantras and everything and these prayers, and because they have embodied that which they have been practicing. So it vibrates quantumly through them. It's not something they need to obtain from outside of them. I think,
Exactly.
yeah. So this is beautiful. I think this is going to help a lot of people realize that it's not as difficult as we've been led to believe, which is a whole other agenda as to why it's been made to be, so difficult.
One of my favorite ways of putting it these days is that simplicity is the refuge of a complex mind, and complexity is a simple mind trying to show off.
I've not heard that one.
Okay.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Things are as simple as we don't want them to be. And the reason we don't want them to be so simple is we feel really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times in life I went, oh man, am I stupid? How did I not see the simplicity of it?
Right.
I feel stupid all the time. I do stupid shit all the time. You know why? I'm a human being.
Right. And
Much as I'm a spirit wrapped in flesh, I'm still a human being,
mhm,
which means that I have a limited capacity regardless of the ability. I might have the ability to jack into the mind of God and go walking around and sit next to God and have God explain it all to me. But from down here in this view, I'm always going to be limited because that's what I came down here to be, is a limited human being to enjoy the human experience and everything it has to offer.
yes, exactly. Oh my, I actually made another short video today about being in human form, so the human experience is not something to run away from. It's something to embrace and to go into. So what you just said is perfect, because we have to be okay with what we chose to incarnate as, which is a human being. That is a magnificent thing. But with that does come its limitations, not limitations like you're impossible, it's impossible. Limitations like this is what a human being does. And if guess what, if reincarnated as a cat, you would have the abilities and limitations of a cat. But you are a human being, which means okay, you're gonna have a mind, you're gonna have an ego, you're gonna do stupid stuff, and it's all okay. It's great because that's what you are. And so to bridge again humanity and consciousness, to bridge this human flesh with the ethereal nature of what we are, is to me bridging heaven on earth, and being okay when a spiritual person who's meditating every single day and using their japa beads and chanting, whenever they mess up, and whenever they get angry, or whenever they fall out of a relationship, because this is the this is the divine at play. This is the form that consciousness decided to take in humanity, and that needs to be okay, because we didn't incarnate as Bigfoot, or the Loch Ness monster, or a mouse. So being okay with what we are is huge.
There's a word that you use that I want to go back to, ego.
Mm,
Ego gets a bad rap
yes.
because people don't understand what the ego actually is.
Hmm.
Your ego is your identity. It's who you are. If you had no ego, no identity, you would be a mindless slave to anything and everything around you.
Hmm.
Okay. You can have a healthy ego or you can have an unhealthy ego. But
Right.
your ego, your identity is refined with each and every time you use the word I.
Hmm.
I am. I mean, I'm infinite. Yes, I am. I am having a conversation with my friend Chris. That's the state of my infinite being currently.
Right.
Self talk And the use of the word I is the most powerful talk that we use. Now, there's also me. Me, I'm over here bringing attention to ourselves because for some reason we feel the need to have our existence acknowledged.
Mm,
That's mine, my thing over there.
right.
Things that we use to define our existence, our world, so to speak. Okay. Self talk is all about refining the idea of who we think we are. And it can be built on truth or it can be built on bullshit. Belief versus truth. You can believe a lie, and the truth can only be accepted or denied. And
Mm,
typically, when it gets denied, it's over a belief.
right.
So,
Yes, beautiful.
being able to allow oneself to understand that we have the power with every word we speak to refine who we are is an awesome responsibility.
Mm. But that's also what scares people too.
Mhm.
And that's why I think people try to do away with the ego completely, because they don't understand that it's not that the ego's bad or you shouldn't have an ego. It's that they don't know how to use it and to work with it and to walk alongside it. Instead, the ego is sitting in the front seat and doing all the talking, doing all the work, and it's in charge. That consciousness that runs through the ego is not found. So I think there's been these spiritual practices to totally rid ourselves of the ego. But now people are chasing this love and light where we're totally just blissed out. And and I don't mean to talk down to or have it seem like that, but what we're looking to do is really get to the truth of this thing. You
Mhm.
know, all is okay, all is divine. Ego is a part of the human experience, like you're saying. It's the identity, right? So
Mhm.
it's energy in motion. Where does that energy go? Go. Where does that energy go?
Yes.
And if you can move from that space, um here's a good example. Today, something was happening with my daughter, and like some box almost fell on her. Right? She's 10 months old, and I like kicked it like a karate move, like kicked it, and I was like, yeah, that was totally awesome. And I was like, I told my fiance, I said, did you see that? Did you see that? That is a total ego thing, needing
Mhm.
credit,
Mhm.
wanting to be validated, but I was conscious enough to say, this is okay because I'm actually experiencing this joy and excitement of protecting my daughter.
Right.
So ego was involved in that moment, but it
Oh, yeah.
wasn't a ego-driven act. Does that make sense?
The reason that you were even driven to protect was because it was your daughter.
Right. Yeah.
It was an ego driven act,
Right. Right.
and it was a healthy ego driven act.
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
You have this emotional bond and connection to this really small human
Mm, yeah.
that you take the personal responsibility of in defining part of who you are in your life
Right.
by how well you take care of this little human you're responsible of.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So
This
it
is
is every bit a part of your identity that made you jump into action so quickly without thought to protect a little piece of your life
mm,
that is part of your world, part of your existence.
right.
Our children are a major part of our world.
Yeah.
And it's not that too often we try to, as parents, have our children be an extension of us
This is good. Yeah.
rather than allowing them to be their own individual.
Yep.
My son is 13. Okay. And one of the things I've done with my son to curtail me trying to live through him and allow him to be an individual is he has this nickname, the dude, and it has nothing to do with the Big Lebowski. Absolutely nothing. What it is that when he acts up or out, as every child is going to do on occasion, we
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation where I go, okay, son, what does it mean to be the dude? Be nice, be a friend to everybody, use your please and thank you, da 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 da, and a list of human behaviors that we can all agree on are good for getting along with people
Mm,
and behaving correctly in a way that's healthy. We have that 1 to 2 minute conversation, and it's all right. Now go be the dude, and he auto corrects his behavior, and I never have to punish him. He's 13 now, and I haven't had to even think about punishing him since he was 4,
Mm,
because I allow him to have these behaviors that we associate as being decent human behavior, but still have his own idea of preference,
I love that.
and to define his existence through the things that he prefers, the things that he cares about.
Mm,
I like this. I like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. These are all character refining statements, because if life is a movie, well, our character, our story that our character is living is always going to be in context of the character that we are, and we're constantly refining. If you
right.
don't like the way your story is going, change the character so that the
Right.
story, so that you can fit yourself into the story that you want to live.
Yeah. Jim, give me one.
I wanted to take a second to go back to who you and I are and what we do that's different than the same.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's do
with
that.
what you and your comrades have put together with the Heart Center is a stepping stone process to help people be empowered and
Mm,
be free. Very similar to what I do, only I have adopted a mindset. I call it chaos shamanism with a K.
mm-hmm.
And what chaos shamanism is it's using everything to build your own spiritual path based on what resonates and works best for you.
Mm,
Okay. The greatest difficulty in life in building your own spiritual path is an understanding that whatever you give power to, you give power over you. Okay. Owning that ability to have all that power be us is the scariest thing anybody faces, because who am I to have that kind of power?
right.
We have been inundated and programmed for so many centuries that all of us are powerless.
Mm, yes.
The greatest lie of every 12-step program is the higher power. Giving it over to a higher power, it takes responsibility off self
Mm,
of doing the hard work of going, no, I own this. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a recovered pain pill addict. I never used a 12-step program. I just quit drinking and understood why. I quit taking prescription pain pills and understood why I was doing it and why it wasn't healthy. To say that my higher power did it for me is taking any ownership that I am responsible for my choices, that I am responsible for the impact that what I do and say has
right.
away, and giving it away to something else so that I don't have to feel guilty about anything.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is a gift that we give to ourselves, not only when we forgive ourselves, but when we forgive other people. And forgiveness without a change in behavior is nothing more than an excuse to continue with the bad behavior.
Right.
It's that ownership of self. Like everything I teach people is about owning who they are,
No matter
right
what it
or
is.
indifferent.
Yeah. It's it's funny you say that because I see so many parallels. And no matter what genre of self-help you're looking to receive, whether it's a religious point of view, a spiritual point of view, a
Mhm.
12-step point of view, and an addiction point of view, you can either take that approach where you can say, okay, I'm going to go to church on Sunday because I've had a really bad week and I need God to forgive me of my sins so that I can feel better. You are still skipping over your responsibility in it. You need to stop, and then the same thing with the spiritual community, right? So, all right, well, I have my vibration's low right now, so I need to go uh, meditate and do these things to make my vibration raise. Okay, yes, you can do that, but you're still skipping over your part in it. And the same with the 12-step program. So, ownership of self is the step. That's the step that I think that's missing. And what people are afraid of is that they think that makes them bad or evil or not a spiritual person or not a good person. And I think I just want to say personally, when you own whatever has happened to you or whatever you're going through, whatever you've done, that ownership in that very moment has already shifted into the vibration and into the reality that you actually want to experience, because now you're looking at it, now you can see it, now you can move with it. There's no more separation. You guys, it and you have become one, and you're taking personal responsibility. So you're calling the shots instead of sitting back and saying, okay, God, okay, Buddha, okay, Jesus, okay, Jim, okay, Chris, okay, Heart Center, do it for me. No, I'm going to do it. And that doesn't make me a bad person because this happened. This makes me a person that fell down the stairs or whatever it is, right? It makes me a person that is feeling sad, because that's the truth, right? Isn't that the truth of owning it? Is whatever's happening is happening, and that's okay for it to happen.
It's not just owning it, but it's also taking the moment to understand why it's even happening to begin with.
Right. Going
I
deeper.
exactly.
Moving with it.
Anytime that I've got some sort of issue that's going on with me, I tend to use a tool that I call psychospiralosophy, okay,
Mm-hmm.
which is three different views, three different filters that I run something through so that I can make sure that I'm unified in mind, body, and spirit about whatever it is. Psychology. It's a good idea to understand from a psychological aspect, why do I feel like this? Is what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling like this considered to be mentally healthy, emotionally healthy? Am I sad? Am I experiencing sadness because it's the healthiest emotion to experience given the situation?
Right now.
Right now.
Yeah, can you explain
Spirituality.
that point a little bit further? Because I think that's important. So you said, why am I feeling this emotion? Just going deeper about that, because I think that's something that people really are going to need to be refined. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Well, when you get you go from, okay, I've looked at it from psychology, I've determined that I'm not crazy for feeling this way. Now, spirituality. What about my chosen spiritual path makes this make sense as to why I'm experiencing this emotion? Then philosophy. For me, philosophy is what shit have I talked and programmed into myself that made this the response that came forth.
Mm-hmm.
If it all lines up, all three, and you're going, right, it's psychologically healthy, it matches up with my spiritual path, and these are the things that I have said before that laid this program of response to external stimuli. I understand why I feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing that we can ever do is not let ourselves feel the fullness of an emotion.
Yes. Say it one more time.
One of the worst things we could ever do is not allow ourselves to feel the fullness of an
Yes.
emotion. Now, what we do in that emotional state, sometimes it's not necessarily healthy. Okay. Experiencing the emotion and acting on the emotion are two different things. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The exercise I like to put myself through is, while I'm in the fullness of that emotion, explain it to myself while I'm sad or enraged or whatever, why it is I feel this way. And as I'm able to allow the emotion to purge out, I start working a spiral, looking back inward at myself, going, okay, now, if I wasn't me and somebody explained that to me, what would I tell them?
Mm.
How would I feel about what they're explaining? Okay. It's searching within here and continuing to look inside of yourself for your own validity.
Right.
Instead of seeking validation, make sure you're valid. And
Right.
each and
Within.
every one of us is capable of finding our own validity and knowing ourselves to be valid before we ever even speak.
Right.
When we seek validation, we're giving power over to other people. And that's never a good thing to do, ever.
It's not. And it like, but it takes, so an individual who can do that, right, is usually an individual who has a pretty decent intellect, right? They can process information, they can think critically, but also humanity is getting to the point where we are learning our own power. And again, uh, erasing those old programs that say, no, you can't do this, or you need someone else to do that. So I want to mention that when you do this process, one more time,
Psychospiralosophy.
psychospiralosophy, yes, which is beautiful, and I actually promote that. If you haven't done something like that, which is really internally checking in with yourself, you're going to face a lot of resistance, because you're going to face those old thought patterns, those old, as Sanskrit term calls them, the old samskaras that have been playing out in your mind for however long. So I don't want you to give up and give in whenever it becomes a little bit challenging. I would say a good sign is, okay, I'm going to go check in with myself. No, don't do that. Ah, good. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, right?
Right.
So don't let get your own self out of the way. Allow yourself to, again, like Jim said, feel the fullness of the emotion and move through it, move with it. Don't run away from it just because it's a little bit daunting.
Well, one of the worst things that we do is classify emotion as positive or negative.
Yeah, it is.
Because as soon as we do that, we are instantly judging everybody else who is feeling an emotion. And here's how subjective positive and negative is. Every time I get angry, there's a bunch of people around me who think it's a really cool thing because they're angry too. Anger must be a positive emotion.
Huh.
Every time I get angry, nobody wants to be around me, so anger must be a negative emotion. Totally subjective. Totally subjective. There's no objectivity there at all. We're emotional creatures. Emotion is a wave that rolls. Sometimes it's calm serenity and there's very little waves, and we're pretty much at peace with everything around us. And then external stimuli makes a ripple, makes a wave. Okay. As long as conflict resides within, we're going to search for conflict out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to push the idea that we have this emotion as far away from us as possible. And every time we interact with people, we're going to get faced with that emotion. Why do I keep pissing people off? Because you're not dealing with your own anger.
Right.
Why do I keep making people sad? Because you're not dealing with your own sadness.
Mm.
Why does everybody argue with me? Because you still can't stop arguing with yourself.
Yeah. So when does that become just part of the human experience, right? So playing devil's advocate,
It all is
that?
part of the human experience. I mean,
One more time?
It's all part of the human experience.
Right.
We're in the middle of what I call a genetic jump forward for our species. Our species is evolving, right?
Yep.
Well,
Definitely.
essence precedes existence. So in order to have an evolution in flesh and in ability on a physical level, first we have to evolve our thinking. Okay. And in order to evolve our thinking, we have to let go of everything there was before and venture off into the unknown.
Yes, exactly.
Do differently.
Yeah.
It's why one of my favorite things, one of my favorite personal mantras is to remind myself that in order to learn anything, I have to let go of everything I think I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so then you're at that 0 point. I know nothing, right? So it brings me up to thinking about, like you said. So we're making that quantum leap, right? So we're evolving. We cannot emphasize this enough, right? So in order to move forward, we have to essentially we can't be held down, right? So by old belief systems, by thought patterns, by emotional bondage and baggage. Sooner or later, right? If we really want to get the wheel spinning, evolutionarily speaking, and connect with maybe even other species of beings out there, right? And I'm speaking of very concrete physical steps forward, right? So the inner affects the outer, and the outer affects the inner. So like you said, you cannot take those steps consciously until you take those steps internally and really alchemize this old way of being. I actually just made a post on Instagram about not fighting the system anymore, not trying to change the world anymore. That is a very old uh, way to progress. Because when you fight someone because they're fighting, you're still fighting.
Hmm.
So,
Those who change the world change themselves.
right. Yes.
Live the change in the world you want to see. Now,
Yeah.
see, that sounds really cool, and everybody loves the way that sounds, and they love
Oh
this.
my God, it's so amazing.
But actually living that change means you actually have to live differently.
Differently, you got to do something else that's not going on right now, and you actually
Exactly.
have to turn away from all the BS and people trying to change and say, okay, you guys got that handled. I'm gonna go be completely different and work on my craft and dive into a space that I have no idea. I don't know what that's gonna be, but I know it's new. I know I need to be over here and work with it instead of trying to change.
Hmm.
Oh, this is huge. This is a big one for
I accept what is, but because I don't like it, means I am taking it upon myself to do something towards building better.
yeah.
Acceptance does not mean that you have to like it.
Thank you. One more time. Yes. Yes.
Acceptance does not mean you have to like it.
You do not have to like it. You can accept it. Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
People think that for some reason that understanding breeds peace. Actually, understanding does more to breed anger than anything else.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I find that the more I understand why it is the way it is, the harder it is for me not to get angry about it, because what I see is so much deception and manipulation, all based on ideas of greed, authority, power, and control.
Mm.
All things that are unhealthy for the human and humanity, as history has shown with repeated results.
Right.
Okay. You look throughout our shared story of humanity. Doesn't matter what location on the globe it came from what point in this shared story, it is a shared
Mm.
story of humanity that comes together to form this one big human story that covers all of us. Okay. We're all a part of that. Right? Humanity is human,
Mm.
not this culture or that culture or this or that. It's humanity. Okay. Until we learn to let go of what has been holding us back, that history, our shared story of humanity, keeps showing us is that it keeps showing us repeatedly, as long as we hold on to the past, we are limited in what we are capable to do,
Right.
because that past is a prison that keeps us from jumping forward and jumping outside of it.
Right. And
While,
go ahead. You actually finish your thought. Go ahead.
while it is a healthy thing to understand where one came from, it is completely unhealthy to think that is all is one limited to.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Right. And
That finishes the thought.
it's good. No, that's a beautiful thought because people are going to take that as right and wrong, right? So, but it's not a mind concept that we're looking to convey. This is a all I know is that it's not a mind concept that we're looking to convey. It's not about right and wrong. It's about what's working and what's not working, right? So we have spent the past 2000 whatever years doing, this government thing, that whole bit, right? And we can sit there and focus on that whole bit and try to
Mhm.
change it like we've been trying to change it, or you just go over here like we said. So I'm gonna refer to this post about cake. If I can share this real quick, Jim, I think you'll like this. So do you like
Okay.
Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I love cake. I actually just had some cake. Um, if you have a bowl, right, and you make a cake in it, you have the batter, the oil, the butter, the cream, whatever, and you stir it up, yum 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 yum, and you eat it, and you leave that bowl to sit. Let's say a week later, you're like, oh, I want to make a cake. Okay, you want to experience what it feels like to eat this cake. Are you going to go over to that old bowl with the old ingredients and just continue to throw more cake batter into it? Probably not. You're probably going to go and get a different bowl, a clean bowl, and start
Mhm.
fresh with new cake batter, with new butter, with new oil, and make a completely different cake.
Mhm.
And so that is the concept that that we're looking to convey is you can't just continue to do the same things with the old things that you've been doing and
Mhm.
expect something different to happen. If humanity is to evolve, we must start taking steps that we're all a little bit uncomfortable with together in a different direction.
Getting outside the comfort zone is how greatness happens.
Yeah,
Okay, and every great thing in possibility before it can be realized lays on the other side of fear and saying, fuck it, I'm doing it anyway.
right.
I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody who's ever come to me when the idea of fear comes up gets a 2-word mantra: fuck fear.
Double F.
Yeah, no reason to get complicated about it because fear is the dark mirror of love.
Mm,
When we're afraid, we start giving all of our love to ourselves only in order to protect ourselves. Fear is what keeps us from giving who we are to other people as far as the way that we express ourselves.
right.
And as independent as any single one of us is capable of being on our own, one must acknowledge that we are interdependent in life to have a life. And the
Mm,
simplest example of that is I didn't make this computer I use.
mm,
Somebody else had to make it for me so I could have use of it. I am dependent on somebody else creating this technology, doing everything that was required in order to gather the parts together and build this thing.
right.
I may be expressing independent thoughts back and forth with my friend Chris, but there were a lot of other people that had to do a lot of other things just for this moment to be shared.
Yeah.
Okay?
Amazing.
Being interdependent is exactly how it all works. Okay. It
Mm,
doesn't matter how good of an idea you have to bring to life. If nobody else thinks it's a good idea, well, then it's nothing happens.
doesn't work. Yeah.
Synergy.
Yeah.
Synergy. One or more coming together to produce more than either or any could create on their own, or creating at the same time. Like you and I doing two different things cannot create as much in total as what we can create when we come together,
Right. Right.
because synergy allows for the best of what each has to bring to go into something else that's a new creation.
Mm,
What gets done with that? Well, we'll see what people do when
right.
when they start listening to what we're saying.
Yeah.
And that's choices that they're going to make. We have control is one of the worst words there is because it
Mm,
creates a delusion that anything is under control. Nothing is under control. The best that any of us can ever do is manage ourselves.
right.
I
Yeah.
don't even have control over me. I manage me. I manage me. And some days I do better than others. And when I have my bad days, I go, okay, world, I'm going to step away because, well, I'm having a bad day and you don't need to deal with it.
Mm,
I'll deal with my bad day. And when I can give you my best, I'll be back, kind of thing. You know, one of my personal mantras is on my bad days, I'm good. On my good days, I'm one of the best. And on my best days, just stand back and watch the show. But there's deeper meaning to those words.
of course.
On my bad days, I'm the best I can summon up may only still be good,
Right.
but you're at least going to get good from me. On my good days, you're getting my best. And any of us at our best can be counted among the best. There is no the best.
Right.
There is
Exact. I love that.
the
The best.
best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of best.
Right.
A lot of people who are giving forth their best. And on my best days, just stand back and watch the show. Every single one of us has moments in life where everybody should just step back and take notice.
Like, whoa. Look at
Okay.
that.
We all have those moments.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to create those moments. They happen because we've put so much effort into giving our best, to being at our best, to living up to our full potential.
Mm.
When that happens, sometimes you can't avoid people stepping back and going, holy shit,
Right. Yeah.
because of what they're experiencing from us. One of the worst things I hate that makes me so uncomfortable is when people tell me, I am so honored to meet you and da 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 da. Don't be honored. Don't be honored. Please don't be honored. I'm just a human being. I'm still a human.
Right.
Regardless of anything else I do, I'm a human like you on this human adventure. Can't we all just greet eye to eye with open arms for a big old hug?
Yeah.
That right there, just in changing how we view, let us all meet eye to eye. There is no reason for any of us to ever bow to another.
Mm.
No reason whatsoever. If I honor you as a human being, that means I respect you enough to look you in the eye. It means I love you enough to wrap my arms around you and let our hearts connect,
Mm-hmm.
go
Yeah.
back and forth and share the love.
Yes.
Okay. That is bridging humanity and consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Just in human being, love the human being. I
Right.
love human beings.
And it's
The
simple.
t-shirt I'm wearing, you see what that says? Okay.
Yeah.
Above it, Captain Love.
Captain Love.
Okay. My favorite t-shirt. I picked
Love
this t-shirt up at the Salvation Army for $3.
it. Mm.
All right. I wear this shirt because it reminds me love,
And
give
we're not
love,
talking about emotion. We're not talking about that emotional love. We're talking about the
the
divine.
action,
Yes.
the
Yes.
actions that show the love.
Mm.
It's nice to talk. It's great to talk. A lot of gets accomplished and inspired through people talking. But until we actually get into action of showing the love, giving a big old hug, when somebody says, hey, I need help, what do you need?
Mm.
Not, how did you get in this situation? Why should I help you? Well, what do you need?
Mm.
That is an act of love.
Right.
An act of fear is, why should I help you? What's
Yeah.
it going to cost me to help you?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me?
You know?
Okay.
And we said that word again. We said, what's in it for me, right? So what's in it for that, for my expression of my existence, instead of understanding that we are all expressing this one unified existence as humanity.
Beautifully said. Beautifully
Yes,
said.
that's the message. That is what it's about. We know whenever it's flowing, because whenever you say, I need help, you're saying we all need help, but this form of, the humanity needs help. There's no stress off of my back, because I recognize the human in you as far as the human in me. And so by helping you, I inevitably help me. And as you go, I go, we go. So there's no such thing as, you're besting me or I'm besting you, or it's only for you. It's synergistic, like you said. It's actually really, really amazing whenever humanity's getting to that point of love. And
Kind of brings me to something, is this idea of competition.
yes.
Somehow life is a game.
Yeah.
I when I run into people who think that life is a game, I like to bring them into my game, and I call it the zero sum game. SUM, the zero sum game. That basically says that I win or nobody wins, because when I win, everyone wins. Because when I win, we all stop seeing it as a game
Right.
and we start acting more humane,
Mm.
and we set aside the idea of competition and gamesmanship, and we understand that we are all in this together. We are one earth community, one human community that lives on this little blue orb floating through space.
Yeah.
Community is about taking care of each other because it's the right thing to do.
Right. And people will say, well, how do you know it's the right thing to do? And to that, I would say, don't do it and see what happens. Don't do it and see what happens. Don't take care of each other, and let's just see. And that's the thing about the truth. You don't need to prove the truth. You don't need to force people to believe the truth.
No.
All you need to do is sit back and watch the show. Sit back and allow the truth to speak. If we
Mm-hmm.
don't take care of each other, there's only one thing that's going to happen. And we all know what it is. I don't even need to say it. When we take care of each other, take care of our fractal. So this fractal part of the human consciousness, literally the sky is actually the limit. The limit or limitless, I should say. The sky is limitless.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel as though the work that we're doing with the Heart Center, the work that you're doing, even the beat that we're doing here, is a huge testament as to where we are moving, as a human species. I don't
Absolutely.
think I would be here in this incarnation if things weren't moving in that direction. I'm actually super excited. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I want to. So my computer is at 20% now.
Okay.
Um, I don't want this to just cut off in mid talk.
Right. No,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I think we can start winding up. This video will probably be a few videos. We'll probably do segments. I'll rewatch it, send it to you, see what you think,
Mhm.
and I can edit it and all that fun stuff. But is there anything that you want to say that I can make sure it gets put into this video before we close off here?
What I like about this is that we jumped around quite a bit in this
Mm,
introductory video. And I think for me, that lays a great foundation showing that we're going to cover it all. In
yeah,
this introduction, we wanted to give you an introduction of who we are as individuals, what our common goal is, and how we each take different approaches to get there.
yeah,
Over the course of this series, you and I, and whoever else comes on these shows with us, it'll be topical and we'll try and keep it to topic. But I know me, I'm an abstract thinker, so trying to keep me focused is going to be the hardest job Chris has ever had.
yeah. And it doesn't make it any easier. That I think the same way. So let's look at that. Yeah,
Maybe so we'll put it out to the big U, the universe, that if Chris and I need a focus person to keep us both on the right track and on topic as we go further through this adventure, well, we'll see who shows up.
yes, I like that. It's beautiful.
I love this beginning. I love the synergy that we're creating here, and I love how much you have grown
Mm,
and really become my peer.
thank you.
Whereas when we first met, you were definitely my student.
Mm,
You are my peer in this moment now.
thank you.
And it has been beautiful to see that growth. And it is a privilege to have had a part in it, a
Yeah.
small part years ago. But that's the biggest part of what I do. I look at everything I do as a shaman
Mm,
as being a sacred responsibility and a divine privilege.
yeah.
You know, being able to see the results of guidance given and how it was used as you went through your experiences, to see that this is the result with what you've built with the Heart Center and everything else you're doing in life,
Hmm.
that speaks volumes to what you took away from what I gave you and ran with it on your own. Be
Yeah.
proud of where you've
I,
come to and the man you currently are, the human being you are. You
mm,
are in honor of yourself, and you honor yourself in everything you do, Chris. Don't ever doubt that.
thank you, friend. I appreciate that. That is very heart-centered and heartfelt. It is. Yeah. I mean, that's why I reached out just to say thank you and to say thank you as a peer, and as
Yes.
and as a human being, because that's the level you were looking to get me to. So I appreciate that. This is literally a beautiful beginning. We're gonna take off from here. We do open the doors to any other being who feels called to assist us. I think of a few people who'd love to join this, but for now, I will say love, peace, and purity to you, my friend, and I'm so glad to know another.
I
Okay,
love you, brother. I love you. And
love you
keep
too,
being
man.
the blessing you are in the lives of others.
You too. We will speak soon. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.